AITA for refusing to fund my sister's divorce after my parents drained my college fund? I'm Jennifer, 38, the oldest daughter in a family that always praised me for being responsible right up until responsibility became a knife they could hand me. I live a careful, independent life now, the kind built out of small habits nobody sees. I still fold receipts into my wallet before I leave a restaurant. I still check account balances twice. I still keep important papers in labeled envelopes because when I was 18, the people I trusted most taught me that family money only belonged to family when Brittany needed it. Brittany is my younger sister by 4 years. Growing up, she was not some cartoon villain stomping through the house demanding crowns and applause. She was prettier when she cried, softer when she failed, easier for my parents to protect. If Brittany forgot a deadline, Mom said she was overwhelmed. If I missed one, Mom said I knew better. If Brittany needed money, Dad called it an emergency. If I needed anything, he called it a lesson. That was the rhythm of our house. Brittany felt. I understood. Brittany needed. I adjusted. Brittany broke things. I learned how not to make noise walking around the pieces. My parents, Marilyn and Robert, were not openly cruel most of the time. That would have been easier to explain to people. They were polite, practical, and very good at making unfairness sound reasonable. Mom had this warm voice she used when she wanted something from me. Like she was wrapping a chain in velvet. Jennifer, you're older. You understand. Jennifer, your sister is sensitive. Jennifer, not everything has to be equal to be fair. By the time I was 16, I had heard those lines so often they felt like wallpaper. The one thing I thought was mine was college. My parents talked about it for years. They told me there was a savings account. They told me they had planned ahead. They told me if I kept my grades up, applied for scholarships, and made smart choices, I would have a real start. So I did everything teenagers are told to do when adults say hard work matters. I stayed after school for help. I worked weekends when my friends were at movies. I saved brochures in a folder and wrote tiny notes on financial aid letters like I actually understood what all the numbers meant. I had an acceptance letter I kept in a plastic sleeve until the edges turned slightly yellow. I used to take it out and look at it when the house got loud because it felt like proof that I was not going to be stuck forever in a place where being dependable meant being disposable. Brittany, meanwhile, got engaged at 22. Her wedding planning took over our house like weather. There were binders on the kitchen counter, fabric swatches on the dining room table, phone calls about centerpieces, and Mom saying once in a lifetime. So often I started to hate the phrase. Brittany wanted the big dress, the giant cake, the live flowers, the photographer with the glossy sample album, and some ridiculous decorative flower wall she had seen online. Every time Dad looked stressed about the numbers, Mom would touch his arm and say, "She only gets this day once." I was 18 then. I was trying to figure out housing deposits, tuition deadlines, books, transportation, everything. The savings account was supposed to be part of the plan. Not all of it, but enough to make the difference between difficult and impossible. The first warning sign was a financial aid letter that did not make sense. Then a deadline reminder. Then a conversation with my dad where he would not look me in the eye. We were standing in the kitchen. Mom was at the sink rinsing a coffee mug she had already washed once. Dad was pretending to sort mail. I said, "I need the account information for the college fund." Neither of them answered. I remember the sound of the faucet. I remember Brittany's wedding invitation stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. I remember my stomach dropping before anyone said a word. "Dad," I said, "where is the money?" Mom turned off the water too hard. "Don't start this tonight." "Start what?" Dad sighed like I was making him do something painful. "We had expenses." "For what?" Mom wiped her hands on a towel. "Your sister's wedding needed help." For a second I thought I had misunderstood. I actually looked at both of them waiting for the real explanation. "That was my college fund," I said. Mom's mouth tightened. "It was a family account. It was for my college. It was money we saved," Dad said, in that calm voice he used when he wanted me to feel unreasonable. "And we made the best decision we could at the time." I stared at him. "You spent it," Mom said. "Your sister only gets married once." I said, "I only get to start my life once." That was when Mom laughed. Not a big laugh, not an evil one. Just a small, sharp breath through her nose like I had embarrassed myself. Jennifer, you were never Harvard material anyway. I was not going to Harvard. I had never been going to Harvard. She knew that. She used the name like shorthand for every dream I had ever been foolish enough to say out loud. Dad looked tired. You're strong. You'll figure it out. Brittany's wedding happened 2 months later. I stood in a dress I could barely afford and smiled in family photos under a wall of flowers paid for with my future. People kept saying the wedding was beautiful. The dress was beautiful. The cake was beautiful. The venue was beautiful. Every compliment felt like someone pointing at my loss and calling it decor. Brittany floated around like a princess in satin, hugging people, laughing, dabbing at her eyes. Once, near the bathroom hallway, she caught me staring at the flowers. You okay? She asked. I almost told her. I almost said, do you know what this cost me? But Mom appeared behind her and said, Jennifer is fine. She's emotional. So I was fine. That became the official family story. I was fine. I was dramatic but fine. I was jealous but fine. I had loans, delayed plans, cheaper options, extra shifts, and a careful life made out of saying no to things other people got to say yes to, but I was fine. And every time I brought it up, Mom said I was punishing Brittany for being loved. Dad said, you turned out all right. Brittany said, I didn't ask them to do that. In a voice that always made it sound like my pain was an inconvenience she did not want delivered to her door. After a few years, I stopped trying to get them to admit it. Not because it stopped hurting, but because I realized they were more committed to the lie than they had ever been to me. I still kept the papers, though. Not all of them at first. Just the old account statement, the financial aid letter, the acceptance letter with my handwriting in the margins. Later, after a fight where Mom said I was exaggerating, I started gathering more. Old emails. Old invoices. A copy of the catering receipt I found tucked into a box of holiday decorations one year, when Mom asked me to help clean the garage. A dress payment. A photographer invoice. The flower wall deposit. The dates lined up so neatly it made my hands go cold. For 20 years that folder lived with me like a sealed room in a house. I did not open it often. I did not need to. I knew what was inside. Then Mom called me on a Tuesday night with her soft voice. Hi, sweetheart, she said. I paused with my hand on the dishwasher door. Mom only called me sweetheart when she needed something. Hi, Mom. I've been thinking. Too many years have gone by with old wounds sitting between us. I closed the dishwasher slowly. What do you need? There was silence. Then a little hurt sound like I had slapped her through the phone. Jennifer, can't I call my daughter? You can. But you don't use that voice unless there's a reason. She sighed. Brittany is going through a hard time. There it was. Brittany's marriage to Evan had always looked expensive from the outside. Matching Christmas pajamas, beach photos, curated anniversary posts, a house full of things she described as investment pieces. I was not close enough to know the full truth, but I knew enough to know image mattered more to her than comfort. Mom said, she and Evan are separating. I'm sorry to hear that. She's scared. I'm sure she is. We're having dinner on Sunday. Just family. I think it would mean a lot if you came with an open heart. Open heart. Another velvet chain. I told her I would think about it. 10 minutes later, the family group chat lit up. It was called Family Updates, because of course it was. Mom wrote that Brittany was facing a painful season and needed everyone around her. Dad wrote, this is when family shows up. Aunt Linda sent 3 heart emojis. Cousin Melissa said she was sorry and asked if Brittany needed anything. Then Brittany sent me a separate Zelle request. The amount was not small. The note said, Mom said you'd understand. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to type something sharp. My second instinct was to call her and let 20 years pour out of me in one ugly flood. Instead, I took a screenshot. Then Dad texted me privately. Bring your checkbook Sunday just in case. We can talk numbers at dinner. I laughed once alone in my kitchen. Not because it was funny, because if I did not laugh, I was going to shake. The next day, Mom sent a message about keeping the dinner gentle. Brittany sent another one saying I hate asking but I'm scared. Dad wrote this is temporary. Bridge support. Just until everything settles. Temporary. Bridge support. Those were old words. Those were the same kinds of words they had used when they told me I would land on my feet, as if stealing the floor from under someone was fine as long as they eventually learned balance. The biggest mistake came Friday afternoon. Brittany sent me an image by accident. I opened it before she deleted it. It was a screenshot of a notes app titled Dinner Points. I read the lines before my brain even caught up. Mention Jen is stable now. Don't bring up college unless she does. Aunt Linda can help soften her. Start with retainer, not full amount. Say temporary. Mention family reputation if needed. Then the message disappeared. A second later, Brittany texted, "Ignore that." I had already captured it. I wrote back, "I saw it." She replied, "Can you not make everything a fight?" I did not answer. That night, I opened the folder for the first time in years. The paper smelled faintly stale, like old closets and things nobody wants to touch. I spread everything across my table. The old bank statement showing the withdrawals, the college letter, the handwritten notes I had made at 18, the wedding invoices, the catering receipt with a payment date 3 days after one of the withdrawals, the dress payment, and the flower wall deposit. Then I pulled up my email archive. Years earlier, in an old email account, I found a forwarded chain Mom had accidentally included me on while trying to prove an unrelated point. At the time, I had read it once and felt sick. Now I printed it. Mom had written to Dad before the wedding, "Jennifer will get over it. She always needs a little time to feel dramatic first." Dad had replied, "Don't tell her until after everything is paid. She'll make it harder than it needs to be." There was another message too. A screenshot from an old family computer backup I had almost deleted years before. Brittany to Mom right before the wedding. "She'll survive. She always does." For years, Brittany had acted like she did not really know. Like maybe she had only been vaguely aware. Like maybe our parents had handled everything behind her back, and she had been an innocent bride floating through the wreckage. That message proved otherwise. She had known enough. I printed the current Zelle request. Dad's checkbook text. The dinner points screenshot. The retainer estimate Brittany forwarded the next morning after pretending she was only asking people to pray. It was an email attachment from a divorce attorney's office. Then, buried lower in the forwarded chain, I saw references to an apartment deposit, car payment catch-up, and something labeled stability fund. There was also a line about a short-term loan that might need a cosigner. Start with retainer, not full amount. Of course, I did not go to that dinner to start a war. I went prepared for the one they had already planned. Before Sunday, I froze my credit with all 3 major bureaus. I checked old accounts. I made sure my parents had no lingering access to anything with my name on it. I wrote a refusal in my notes app. Then I wrote an email I did not send yet, short and clean, because I knew if I waited until I was angry, I might give them language they could use against me. On Sunday, I put the documents in a manila folder and drove to the restaurant. I expected a small dinner. Instead, Mom had invited witnesses. Aunt Linda was there with Uncle Ray. Melissa sat beside them, looking like she wished she had asked more questions before showing up. Evan was at the far end of the table, jaw tight, one hand around a water glass. Brittany sat near Mom wearing a soft gray sweater, her hair done in loose waves, her nails freshly manicured in pale pink. She looked fragile in the way she had always known how to look fragile when someone else was expected to carry the heavy thing. The table was crowded with too many serving dishes. Salad nobody had touched. Bread baskets. Half-filled water glasses. Forks lined up like everyone was pretending this was normal. Mom stood when she saw me. "Jennifer," she said, opening her arms. "I'm so glad you came with an open heart." I hugged her because refusing would have made me the problem before I even sat down. "I came to listen," I said. Dad patted the chair beside him. "Sit here." I chose the seat across from him instead and placed my purse on one side, the manila folder on the other. Mom noticed it. Her eyes flicked down then back up. "What's that?" she asked lightly. "Paperwork." Dad gave a small laugh. "Always organized." "Yes," I said. "That has helped me." For the first 20 minutes, nobody said the real reason we were there. They talked about the food, about how busy everyone was, about the weather, about Melissa's new apartment. Brittany kept dabbing under her eye even though she was not crying. Evan stared at the table. Finally, Mom put her fork down. I think we all know Brittany is facing something painful. Brittany looked down into her napkin. Dad nodded. Divorce is hard. It's emotionally hard, and it's financially hard. Aunt Linda made a sympathetic sound. Poor thing. I watched Brittany's face. She did not look at me until Dad said financially. Mom reached for Brittany's hand. Family helps family. We do not keep score. That was bold even for her. Dad turned to me. You're doing fine now. Brittany is the one who needs us. I'm sorry she's struggling, I said. I really am. But I'm not contributing financially. The room tightened. It was subtle, but I felt it. Forks paused. Melissa looked at her plate. Uncle Ray leaned back slightly. Brittany lifted her head. I hate asking, Jen. You already asked, I said. You sent a payment request before dinner. Her cheeks flushed. Mom said you'd understand. I understood the request. The answer is no. Mom's face changed. The warm softness stayed in place, but her eyes went hard. Jennifer, this is exactly what I was afraid of. You came in ready to punish her. No. I came in ready to say no clearly. Dad cleared his throat. No one is asking you to carry everything. We are talking about temporary help. A bridge. How much is the bridge? I asked. Mom smiled too quickly. Let's not reduce your sister's pain to numbers. Then don't send me numbers through Zelle. Evan's eyes moved to Brittany. Brittany snapped. You have no idea what I'm going through. You're right, I said. I don't know all of it. But I know it is not my bill. Mom's hand hit the table softly, not loud enough to be a scene, but enough to make Aunt Linda blink. You have always been so determined to punish Brittany for being loved. There it was. The old script. I said nothing. Mom continued, voice trembling now for the audience. For 20 years, you have acted like we ruined your life because we helped your sister have one beautiful day. Brittany let out a small bitter laugh. It's not like you ended up homeless. I looked at her then. She looked away first. Dad leaned forward, calm and tired, the reasonable man at the center of unreasonable things. Jennifer, no one is saying it was perfect. But you built yourself up. That means we made the right call. For a moment, everything went quiet inside me. Not because he hurt me. He had hurt me before. It was the confidence of it. The neat little moral equation. We stole from you. You survived. Therefore, the theft was justified. I put my napkin on the table. You're right, I said. I did survive without that money. But surviving something doesn't make what you did acceptable. Mom rolled her eyes. Here we go. No, I said. Here we stop. I opened the folder. Dad's expression shifted first. Not fear exactly. Recognition. I placed the old savings account statement in the center of the table. This is the account you told me was for college. Mom said. Jennifer, this is not appropriate. I placed the venue invoice beside it. This is the venue deposit. Then the catering receipt. This is the catering balance. The dress payment. This is the dress. The photographer invoice. The photos. The flower wall deposit. And this is the flower wall everyone kept telling me was so beautiful. Uncle Ray leaned forward. Wait. Mom's face went pale around the mouth. I tapped the dates. The withdrawal dates and payment dates are right there. Aunt Linda frowned. I thought this was handled years ago. It was handled, Mom said quickly. Within our household. No, I said. It was hidden within your household. Dad lowered his voice. Jennifer, enough. I looked at him. You invited me to a public dinner to pressure me for money. You don't get privacy now because the facts are uncomfortable. Mom reached for one of the papers. These are old. So is the wound you keep billing me for. Brittany whispered. This is insane. I took out the email printout and slid it toward Aunt Linda. Read the date, I said. Aunt Linda hesitated. Mom snapped. Linda, don't. That made Aunt Linda read it. Her eyes moved across the page. She went still. What? Uncle Ray asked. Aunt Linda swallowed. Marilyn wrote, Jennifer will get over it. Mom's cheeks flushed. That was private. So was my future, I said. Aunt Linda kept reading silently. Then she looked at my father. Robert, did she know before the wedding? Dad did not answer. I placed his message on top of Mom's email. Uncle Ray read it out loud before anyone could stop him. Don't tell her until after everything is paid. She'll make it harder than it needs to be. The table went silent. Not dramatic silence. Worse. The kind where everyone suddenly understands they are sitting inside something ugly and cannot politely pretend it is just a misunderstanding. Melissa looked at me, then at Brittany. Brittany's eyes were wet now, but her mouth was tight. I didn't know everything back then, she said. I nodded once. I wondered about that for years. Then I pulled out her message. Brittany saw it before anyone else did. Her face changed so fast it almost made me sad. I slid it toward Evan. He read it, then looked at her. She'll survive. She always does. Brittany's voice cracked. That was 20 years ago. But you knew, he said. She glared at him. Do not act like you're innocent in this dinner. I'm not getting dragged into whatever this is, Evan said. But you told me Jennifer had already offered to help. Every head turned. Brittany froze. Mom said, that is not the issue. Oh, it's part of the issue, I said. I took out the current papers. The Zelle request. Dad's checkbook text. The attorney retainer estimate. Then the screenshot Brittany had accidentally sent me. I placed dinner points in the center. Brittany made a small sound. Jennifer. I ignored her and read only the relevant lines. Mention Jen is stable now. Don't bring up college unless she does. Aunt Linda can help soften her. Start with retainer, not full amount. Aunt Linda sat back like the words had physically pushed her. Uncle Ray looked at my mother. What does full amount mean? No one answered. So I did. The retainer was just the opening. There was also an apartment deposit, a car payment, a stability fund, and a possible loan cosign. Dad rubbed his forehead. Those were options. They were plans, I said. Mom's voice rose. They were ideas from a scared woman whose marriage is falling apart. No, I said. They were a budget built around my silence. Evan pushed back from the table slightly. So this is why you wouldn't show me the full list. Brittany turned on him. You are the reason I need help. And Jennifer is not the reason you need money, he said. He did not say it kindly. He was angry, and I was not interested in making him a hero. But the sentence landed anyway. Mom started crying then. Real tears or useful tears, I could not tell anymore. You came here to embarrass us, she said. No, I said. You invited witnesses. I brought context. Dad stood halfway. Let's step outside and talk like adults. I stayed seated. No private hallway talks. His jaw tightened. Jennifer. No. That's where this family turns facts into feelings. Anything you want to say it here. He sat back down. Brittany wiped her face with her napkin. Why do you always have to make my pain about you? I don't, I said. Your divorce can be painful. I can feel sympathy for that. But sympathy is not a signature, a check, or a loan application. Mom said, family helps family. I looked at her. Family did not help me. Family used me. Aunt Linda whispered. I didn't know the money was hers. It was for her college? Uncle Ray asked. Dad's face had gone flat. It was our money. I picked up the old financial aid letter, the one with my 18-year-old handwriting in the margins. You told me it was for college. You let me plan around it. You hid the withdrawal until the wedding was paid. Call it legally yours if that helps you sleep. But morally, you know what it was. Melissa's eyes were shiny. She did not say anything, but she looked like someone rearranging 20 years of family gossip in her head. Mom's grief turned sharp. You have been waiting to do this. You enjoyed this. No, Brittany said that earlier in her own way, I said. And no, I enjoyed very little about this. I just learned the difference between being quiet and being kind. Brittany pushed her chair back. You are cruel. I am not paying for the divorce of the woman whose wedding was paid for with my future, I said. You do not get to steal from me at 18 and come back at 38 calling it family. Mom whispered. You are tearing this family apart over money. I looked around the table at the untouched salad, The water glasses, the relatives pretending not to breathe too loudly. It was never just money. Dad said, "This family does not need documents. It needs forgiveness." "Then start with an apology," I said. He looked away. That was the answer I had been waiting 20 years to stop needing. Aunt Linda touched the email with 2 fingers. "Marilyn, did you ever pay her back?" Mom stared at her. "That is not the point." "It became the point," I said, "when you asked me for more." For a while nobody moved. Then Brittany stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "So that's it," she said. "You're just walking away?" I put the papers back into the folder slowly. Not all of them. I left copies of the old emails and the dinner points screenshot on the table. "No," I said. "I'm finally walking away with everything that belongs to me." The server came by at the worst possible moment and asked if anyone wanted dessert. Nobody answered. I asked for my check separately. Mom looked horrified. "Jennifer, don't be petty." I almost smiled. Paying for myself is not petty. It's a boundary. When the receipt came, I paid only for my meal. I folded the receipt and slipped it into my wallet out of habit. My hands were steady. That surprised me more than anything. As I stood, Dad said my name one more time. Not angrily. Not softly either. Just, Jennifer. I looked at him. He seemed older than he had when I walked in. For one second I thought he might say it. I thought he might finally say we were wrong. Instead he said, "You didn't have to do it like this." I nodded. "You're right. I could have done it privately. But I already know what happens to the truth in private with you." Then I left. The air outside felt too cold and too clean. I sat in my car for a few minutes with the folder on the passenger seat. I did not cry right away. I thought I would, but mostly I felt tired, like I had been carrying a heavy box for so long that setting it down made my arms ache more than holding it. My phone started buzzing before I got home. Mom sent paragraphs. Long ones. About betrayal, humiliation, cruelty, how she had tried her best, how I had always been hard to love because I insisted on keeping score. Dad left 2 voicemails. I did not listen to them immediately. Brittany texted, "You ruined everything." I replied once, "No. I stopped paying for what you ruined." Then I muted her. When I got home, I sent the email I had drafted before dinner. I will not contribute to Brittany's divorce, moving costs, legal fees, lifestyle expenses, or any loan connected to her. I will not discuss money with any of you again. If you contact relatives to claim I abandoned this family, I will send them the documents you saw tonight. If you want a relationship with me, it starts with an apology, not an invoice. I read it twice. I removed one angry sentence. Then I sent it. Mom responded within 7 minutes. I did not read past the first line. Dad called again. Brittany sent 3 more messages that I did not open. Then Melissa texted me privately. "I'm sorry. I believed what they said about you. I didn't know." I stared at that message longer than all the others. "Thank you," I wrote back. "That means more than you know." Aunt Linda called the next day. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was awkward and careful, full of pauses. "Jennifer, I'm sorry. I really didn't know that was the full story. I should have asked more questions years ago. It was not perfect. It did not fix anything. But it was the first time anyone in that family had admitted there was a story besides the one Mom told first. The fallout was not cinematic. Nobody cheered for me. Nobody sent flowers. Mom did not show up at my door sobbing with an apology. Dad did not mail a check and a handwritten confession. Brittany did not suddenly understand what she had taken from me. What did happen was quieter. The group chat stopped using my name like a resource. Relatives stopped forwarding me messages about Brittany's situation. Evan, from what I heard through Melissa, refused to let Brittany claim I had promised money. Aunt Linda asked Mom questions she had avoided for 20 years. Uncle Ray apparently said, "I don't want to hear Jennifer called bitter again unless someone is ready to explain those emails." Brittany still got divorced. She found money somewhere else, or she cut back, or she did what I had done at 18 and figured it out without the safety net she thought she deserved. I did not ask. That was part of the point. For a few weeks I woke up with guilt sitting on my chest. Not because I thought I had done the wrong thing, but because guilt had been trained into me as the price of saying no. I would catch myself reaching for my phone, wondering if I should soften the email, offer some smaller amount, send a message that said I hoped Brittany was okay. Then I would remember Dad's voice. You built yourself up. That means we made the right call. And the guilt would turn into clarity. I did build myself up. Not because they made the right call. Because they left me no other choice. There is a difference. I still have the folder. I made digital copies and put the originals away. I do not look at them every day. I do not need to. They are not there to keep me angry. They are there to keep me honest when my family tries to make me doubt my own memory. The strangest part is that I used to think I wanted my parents to admit they hurt me more than I wanted anything else. I imagined it so many times. Mom crying. Dad apologizing. Brittany saying she should have refused the money once she knew. Some neat, impossible scene where everyone finally saw me, and the past rearranged itself into something fair. That never happened. But after that dinner, I realized I did not need their agreement to stop participating in their version of reality. I did not need them to call it theft to protect myself from being used again. I did not need them to say I mattered before I could act like I did. A month later, Mom sent one more message. I hope someday you realize family is more important than pride. I read it while standing in line at a coffee shop. I remember because the person ahead of me was taking forever deciding on a muffin, and I felt oddly calm. I typed back, family is more important than pride. That's why what you did mattered. Then I blocked money conversations completely. Not everyone. Not forever. Just the channels where invoices arrive dressed up as love. Maybe someday my parents will apologize without attaching a request to the end of it. Maybe they won't. I have stopped arranging my life around that possibility. They said I humiliated them over money. But it was never just money. It was my future, my trust, and 20 years of being told I should be grateful they left me with nothing. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.